So hi everyone, thank you for coming. Alan and I, my partner in crime over there, are going to chat to you today about supply chain and disruption and linking it to your environmental and sustainability and how it all comes together. So we are CCH Tagetik, part of the Wolters Kluwer group, and we're cutting low on time, so forgive me, I'm going to make this as quick as we can as we go. So let me get straight into it and start with the disruption in the supply chain. You know, it's something that all of us are facing and the challenges that we face. You know, disconnection, slow cycle times, stock outs, you know, environmental impacts that are coming along, logistics costs, and the unexpected is coming along for us to do. So what are the main things around the disruption? Sorry, I missed one. We've lost a slide, I do apologise. So with that in place, Alan, I will hand straight over to yourselves to talk about Charles River, a use case that we've got, and then we'll move on with disruption in the supply chain. So I do apologise. We missed the slide.
No worries. Hi, is this, can you hear me? Hi. So, hi everyone, my name's Alan Bagnall. I head up manufacturing and CPG here at CCH Tagetik. CCH Tagetik, as Kane was saying, is one of the software companies based within the family of Wolters Kluwer. So Wolters Kluwer is a listed business, 180 years old. It's one of the world's largest information and technology providers. So we sit in one of the divisions, and it's a software house. Italian by background, it's a fun and innovative place to work. But what I wanted to do today was just take 10 minutes to introduce what I think is one of the more exciting case studies I've heard in the last year. I saw this presented by Jody Rogers, the Director of Supply Chain here at Charles Rivers at Gardner last year, and I just wanted to try and share at least the highlights of that with you. So in terms of who Charles Rivers are, anyone heard of Charles River? You know, it's a bit like Wolters Kluwer. It's one of those companies where you touch them a lot more often than you actually maybe see the brand. But Charles River is an innovative manufacturer that supports hospitals, governments, vaccine research, pharmaceuticals. So, as I said, anytime you go to a doctor, if you're injected with something, there's every chance that part of that process has either been designed by Charles River or the actual product is a Charles River product, okay? In terms of their size, they're around 4 billion US, publicly listed. And like a lot of manufacturing companies, they're based globally, 110 manufacturing sites, 20 countries. And it's, as I said, it's just one of those companies that the world doesn't tick by without, but you don't necessarily see them every day. So in terms of their journey, there's a few points here, and there's a little reiteration in some of these slides, but I'll try and take you through it slowly so that you get that feel of a story. Prior to 2018, even though they were an acquisitive business, mostly based on SAP, their supply chain was actually reasonably straightforward. So they manufactured globally, but they delivered to end users directly from manufacturing site. So you make it, you demand sense it, you make it, you ship it. That's relatively straightforward. But they were finding that that wasn't scaling, particularly in their EMEA and APAC businesses. So in 2018, they decided to open up a distribution center in Ireland. Part of the design of that change, they quickly realized that their existing SAP system wasn't going to scale to that type of model, because now you're talking about manufacturing, shipping, stocking, and then shipping from that site. And the system hadn't been designed to do that. So at that point, that's when they decided to embark on a journey to just reimagine that whole supply chain piece. So if we look at their story from 2018 to now, as I said, starts in 2018, so they designed this process, brought in consultants, understood the change management that was going to be required within the processes, and then went to market. So they had, like everybody else that goes RFI and RFP, a selection of criteria that they wanted to meet, and in the end, they ended up picking up the Vanguard predictive planning solution. Now, I know that one or two people I've spoken to today have actually heard of Vanguard. So who's heard of the Vanguard solution historically? Oh, there's one at the back there. Love it. Thank you. So if you haven't heard of Wolters Kluwer, then some people have heard of Vanguard. So this is where we see the journey. And I'll come back to this in stages, OK? So when they were looking at their initial challenges, it was, I think, like most companies, Complicated data landscape, multiple SAP systems. The glue of everything is Excel. Is it agile? Not especially. Is it slow? Yes. Is it risky in terms of having silos? I think there was a great speaker on earlier that said that siloed Excel sheets tend to be little castles, and people are very protective of them. You've got to try and break that down. And they spotted that, and they were trying to move on from that as well. So we've got all areas here, moving from demand planning, inventory planning. You know, it's an entire S&OP process. So the reason they chose the Vanguard solution was simple. It met all of the requirements, and the main ones were being able to demand plan and forecast at SKU, at group, and at warehouse level, which they found other solutions had a challenge with. They found that solutions were slow to bring in such disparate sources of data and actually reconcile it, so they're actually getting overlaps of versions of the truth. And so, you know, with the process, they went with Vanguard. It was also cloud, which allowed them to have a very agile, you know, access structure as well. So they spent the next 18 months selecting, implementing, and then let's have a look at some of the results that they got here. So did they get that SAP integration? Absolutely. Did they get the sites that didn't have SAP? Not initially. Okay, that became a bit of a phase 2. What they did do straight away, though, is they were able to reduce back orders by 85%. Actually, I think it says 84 on the banner. Jody said 85. Look, it's between the two. But in the past, and I think someone was talking to me earlier on, they tended to over-forecast. Okay, so they tended to retain just too much stock on some SKUs, and then they would understock consequently on others because they hadn't got the manufacturing capacity to make up. So with the reduction of back orders, you then subsequently see a tremendous increase in customer satisfaction, which again is tremendous for them. They were also able to become a lot more sophisticated at long-term resource buying. So, you know, in the same way as gas companies, you know, the gas you're using now was bought probably 3-4 years ago. These guys are buying materials that they're using now that they were bought 2-3 years ago, and they just got better at doing that, and they saw great cash flow improvements. So one of the other things that was good about Vanguard is that the solution was originally, believe it or not, designed as an AI solution that just happened to find its home as a demand planning solution. It was just the use case that business found was most productive for them. So they've got this great solution, great at scenarios, great at handling with data. It uses predictive analytics. It can see into the future, which is brilliant, until COVID happens. And again, one of the speakers earlier on was talking about it's all well and good having predictive technology and historical data, but when the world changes on a spin, it just becomes completely irrelevant. So what came to the fore now with the Vanguard solution wasn't so much that predictive piece and the data processing. It was more the scenario capability. It was being able to build scenarios of future manufacturing and anticipating ever-changing demand profiles. Something that they also ran into was one of the main products that they produce are little glass vials, which are made from borosilicate, which I don't know how many people know. There's actually generally a glass shortage, apparently, in this world. Even though there's sand everywhere, there's a glass shortage, and there's a special shortage of borosilicate. It's quite a rare material. It was rare to the point where the Department of Health and Human Safety in the US actually militarized it as a resource. So if you wanted borosilicate, you couldn't just turn up and say, I'm going to just go and sell me some. They weren't interested in that. You had to turn up and say how much you wanted, how many vials you were going to produce, when you could produce them by, could you ramp up? And if you did want to ramp up your production, were you going to need additional funding? Because if you did, the government were going to give you the money. You know, at the end of the day, we're supporting a vaccine rollout. So that was the absolute imperative. And this, simply put, is where I think the Charles River story becomes good, because they just won big. Because they were the most sophisticated company out there in this area of being able to say, here's how much glass we can turn into end products, and here's when you can have it, and here's what it's going to cost, and this is how we're going to actually meet your needs. It was the most robust processing, the most robust modeling. The cash flows all stacked up, and they ended up becoming the preferred supplier of glass vials for the US vaccine rollout, which, you know, it would have happened without that, but it certainly wouldn't have happened as fast. And they did build new production plants, and they did need more money, and they did get that cash flow resourcing from the US government. So Vanguard was able to underpin all of that transformation. If we look at the next step of their journey, actually has nothing to do with them. The next step of the journey is that Wolters Kluwer acquired Vanguard as a solution in 2019 and rebranded it as, get ready for this because it's long, it's CCH Tagetik Supply Chain Planning. I've been saying to everybody all day, we like really big names. We've got the Analytics Information Hub, we like big names, but that was the thing. So that solution has been used by them, and we'll talk a bit about the Charles River story after. The Wolters Kluwer story with this product is that we've spent the last 3 years fully integrating this into our existing financial platform. Because what we've got is 27 years of history of delivering excellent finance solutions. Now we feel we've got a market-leading supply chain solution. If you put the two together, we start talking about integrated business planning, and hence that's how it ties back to the title today. But let's get back to Charles River a bit. So, the next step of their journey, hold on, I've skipped on a bit here. So the next step of their journey was to start bringing in all the non-SAP sites. And, okay, it sounds simple in process, but you're talking around about 35 different ERP systems. They each need a different map, they each need different cubes that they're going to go into. So that was quite an extensive process, but it's been done and it got completed. And again, that's when they needed this other long term that I've used, which is the Analytics Information Hub. That's our database. It's like a data warehouse that actually is usable. So it's transactional level. It's very organized, very sophisticated. To give you a feel, Nissan and Honda are using these. They're combining like a dozen SAP systems, 40-odd cubes of data, 20 billions of lines of data a month. It can all go into a single instance of our cloud solution. So it's extremely powerful in bringing everything together in one place. And in terms of what that looks like, it's not complicated. You've got your input data forms, you've got your outputs. We don't have BI layers on the output of the product because everybody's got Tableau, Click, Power BI. So there's no point trying to reinvent that wheel. So we fit in as best as possible with the existing technologies that people have. And again, it just, for the Charles River case, it led to rapid deployment time, which is what they wanted to. In terms of the data flows, everything is workflow driven. So this is a schematic of what that looks like. So if we look here, these are actually fully automated data loads. Now, these are data loads that go through either automatic APIs or direct connections. They're validated, checked, and reconciled with one another so that there's no duplication of data. They're then transformed. So I've been talking with some people today. The key thing with all systems, I think, is you've got to try and get from data to information to a decision as quickly as possible. 2 data points can make a piece of information, and 2 pieces of information can help form a decision. That's the simplistic part. It tends to run into the hundreds. But that's what we're looking to do here with the data transformations. And then ultimately, once all of this is done, and this is all the Analytics Information Hub right there, then it just gets loaded into supply chain planning, and then effectively that plan gets executed. So what you're able to do is get fully costed demand plans straight off the get-go. And again, that's something that Charles River are benefiting from. So when we think about the last challenge that they overcame, so right now we've talked a lot about supply chain. As of last year, the one thing they hadn't really built in that well was the finance piece. That just sat separately. That was going back into SAP. What they decided to do was actually to leverage our existing long-standing financial tools to actually go and create that IBP piece. And then you've got supply chain going all the way across into finance. And that's the step. So they actually bought that in December 2022, so a month ago. And that's going to take them around about 10 months to put in. Once they're done, they're going to have endpoint data going through a complete line of supply chain with finance underpinning the whole thing. The next step of their journey will be ESG. And again, one of the other commentators earlier, and I absolutely agree with this, ESG isn't just a reporting thing that you've got to do. ESG has to be a lens and an activity that impacts and influences every single aspect of your business. And again, if you've got all of your business data in one system, you've got the perfect platform to go and do all of this. So talking about ESG, that's where I drop off. I'll come back to this slide a little bit at the end, but we'll do this a little differently from before because we've split it up into a couple of sections. Does anybody have any questions on that now before I pass across? I know it's late in the afternoon, but come on. No, it's good. Kane, go on.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Alan. So, I'm going to talk now a little bit about the supply chain planning of Vanguard and ESG and the methodologies that we can use and the challenges that we face inside the supply chain. So, there's a quote there from Gartner, you know, ESG, but you can see that for yourselves. Basically, you know, what you've got to do for your scopes, what you've got to gather. Now, you've got to keep hold of that throughout the whole of the supply chain process. So whilst we're now just going to whip away from ESG back into the supply chain, you have to be able to have those thoughts inside what you're doing and what you're planning. Now, these are the three things that you need, basically, that get disrupted inside a supply chain. Your capability, your agility, and your visibility. When any of those are basically lost or disrupted, it becomes very hard work to refocus and go back and put them in place. And so let's have a quick look at each one of those as we go through. So we'll start with capability. There's three potential problems there of capability: geographical, trade routes, supply, pricing and demand and fluctuations, and the infrastructure, etc. Do apologise, but we are running a little bit on time, so I'm speeding things up, so I do apologise. So these are the three problems that we face. They're just many more on top of that. So what we've got to do then is we've got to analyse the viability of everything else, consider the future, your real and your near-time analytics. Now, all of these things that were inside the capabilities that you have, once you lose one, trying to get it back on track is very costly and very time-consuming. And this is where digitalization, AI, and automation will come along and help you on the journey. Agility, the agility and the speed that you can move, the speed that you can change and transfer. McKinsey have a great quote there, and there are many studies there, but rolling forecasts, scenario planning, rapid decision making, your stock outs, managing what you're doing, and actually reviewing also your ESG planning, whether your tons of CO2, your return on investments, etc., can all be part of it, and forecast any change. All have to be agile and instantly available. If you've got to keep putting data into spreadsheets and uploading and not automating it, agility for me is one of the most important things to hold on to. Here's a quick graph and a quick insight into what the agility planning of inside a forecast of the Vanguard solution. There is also a screenshot of scenario planning and forecasting as well. So the main things we're talking about when we're talking about agility, seasonality, trends, all of the lists there, max in-outs, container loading, routing. So you're going right the way down to your transport, so your TMS, your WMS, your MRP. All of those things are affected. Even your sales forecasted, your social with your holidays and promotions. Every part of your business is impacted by the agility. For me, agility is one of the biggest things we can't lose inside a business. Visibility is something that everyone is screaming for. End-to-end visibility, the control tower. What is my finance doing? What is my warehouse doing? Where can I see all of this instantly? Where can I have all of this data to view? The glory of the CCH Tagetik solution, certainly at the supply chain and I'll keep going back to Vanguard, is basically everything is there in one screen. So when you open up and you have a look, you can customize and make that how you wish. But you have the visibility. You can't lose visibility. It doesn't matter whether you're the CFO or the CEO, the level, even down to the warehouse manager. He can have full view of his own customized screen, and what he needs to see is his business priority. So again, what are we talking about with sales forecasting, demand planning, inventory optimization, your supply planning, your MRP, your production scheduling, even down to your procurement planning, your capacity, removing stock outs, removing low stock, utilizing all of your warehouses globally, maximising, just as Charles River have done. It is all there and available. You know, and visibility for me, number 2. Move on now to the ESG topic. And ESG is, as many of you have said here today, is coming along fast. You know, you got ISSB, rumouring that come June, they're going to launch their final draft, and which will go to legislation. Everybody today has been giving the same message that it's coming, regulation, it will be mandatory very soon. So what are we going to have to do with ESG? You're going to have to basically work out which framework you're going to be going into. What is it, and what one am I to fit to? Do I fit to all of them? If you're already dealing in Europe, EU taxonomy is part of your business already. Materiality testing, auditability, ensuring your data collection is strong. So for me, there is the order that you need to go in. You know, collect and work out which framework is best suited for you. Where is my data? How am I going to plug that to the KPIs required? Where am I going to put it? Where does it sit? How is it going to sit there? Materiality assessments, ensuring, you know, where the business capabilities are, the importance factors, weighting the results accordingly. Your financial and operational data all has to be ideally in one place so that you can get return on investment, scenario forecasting, etc. And predictive analytics is key. So if you want to change your LED light bulb or a fluorescent tube into an LED light bulb, what's the journey of that? What is the cost of that? So, and when do I get my return on investment? When do I get my return on carbon, and when am I net neutral? And when do I get my positive, and what can I offset my positive against? You can do all of that with your predictive analytics and your scenario forecasting. I just use the light bulb as an example, but you can use trucks, buildings, companies, etc. So, the environmental part of ESG, forgive me, you've probably got all of this across everybody else's things today, so the worst case of going last is we get to tell you everything once more time. But that's what you need, that's what you're going to measure on your environmental. You're basically going to turn every single thing inside your business, that list is nowhere near exhaustive, into tons of CO2 emissions and get that output. So you've got to be able to hook that data up. Your social, again, for me, is not really taken care of too well in the frameworks. Not everybody talks too heavily about the social element aside, but your corporate responsibility is in there. So you do have to take that seriously. How am I going to demonstrate my health and safety? How do I currently record it? How am I going to put that into a report? How do I make it meaningful? For me, the social is starting to become the CV of the future. People and staff and everybody will look at that and go, are they a sustainable company? Do I want to go and work for them? Skill shortage currently across many of our industries. This is where we'll get to display how good a business that we are. And the governance. I mean, right now, they're all fighting to tell you about governance. ISSB, TCFD, GRI, SASB, they're all having a debate about which one's going to lead. But the governance basically is your end-of-year report. You know, am I protecting my GDPR data? You know, am I a strong business? Do I meet all the regulations? So those are the things that you have to measure. Now, the CCH Tagetik supply chain planning ESG solution covers all of that in one place. All of your data basically gets put in, as Alan has mentioned there, with your AIH engine and our extract, transform, and load capabilities that we have. Everything is in one place. So you have one database taking all of this data in, creating your demand plan, creating your framework output and report, even your financial consolidation, workforce planning. It can do the whole thing from one location and one place. So that is the solution that we have available under supply chain planning. Sorry, that was whistle stop. Time is whipping on. So does anyone have any questions or anything they want to ask currently I am on the stand and at the table as well. That's what I like. So I'll now hand back to Alan because he's far better at this than I am. And Alan will give you a quick brief on IBP.
You know, you've just killed everyone. They thought it was over.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to make this real quick. So we talked about this slide a little earlier on. Everyone has a different interpretation of what integrated business planning was. The term got such a bad rap that they actually got rid of it for a while and turned it into extended planning and analysis. So that's what the Gartner quadrant is at the moment. However, I think there is a lot of validity here, but you have to approach things in the right way. I mean, just because Tagetik has a solution that can go from demand planning all the way to a set of consolidated financial accounts and ESG reports, all XBRL tagged, just because we can offer all of that, I don't think anybody can actually buy that in one go. It's just not practical. Businesses just can't take on that much change. But as I've said to a couple of people today, the important message that we're trying to get into the market is that you can have this all in one place. You don't have to do it all in one go. You shouldn't do it all in one go. But you can pick your point of maximum value and then work your way across horizontally either side until you build out the whole thing. You know, if you're wedded to a financial solution and you're not going to move away from that, fine. We'll fit in around that. So when you think about integrated business planning, there's a white space potential there to fill out the gaps in the processes that you've got right now. Or you can go for the whole thing. Well, you can do both. Start with the white space, then take on a different project. You know, as we saw with Charles River, they started in 2018. They only got the SCP bit done in 4 years. It'll take them another year to do the finance piece on top of that. And will that be truly integrated business planning? Planning, yes, but then the next piece on top of that will be like the business-wide control tower, and that'll take time on top. So it's a journey, but it is a journey worth thinking about and worth strategically trying to build in and see where you can get value from. But in terms of, and I do apologize, this is a bit of the sales pitch now, these are some of the key things that I think you should be looking out for. You know, we've talked about this all in one, that's great. It happens that we've tried to build this solution, and there's a double-edged sword on this one. You know, you can go for very vertical specific. You know, we could have just gone straight for auto. We're very strong there. Could have gone straight for retail. We're strong there in pharma. But we've tried, you know, with the ESG solution and a wider platform to create what we call accelerators. So a solution that you can get out the box 70–75% of the way quite quickly. And by quickly, we mean 6 to 9 months. You know, we're not talking 3–4 year SAP projects. That's not our goal. But these accelerators get you to a minimum viable solution, a value point very quickly, and then you configure for the remainder of your requirements. AI simulations. I bring this up not as a, I think people need to be very cautious about AI. It means 2 different things to 2 different people, let alone 30, 40 different people. If you're going to go into the AI piece, you really need to be ready as a business with a sophisticated data system. And by that, I mean you need a team of data scientists. It's the old classic, we all know that adage of data, you know, rubbish in, rubbish out. With AI, you throw rubbish in, you get absolutely cosmic rubbish out on the other side. It's got to be very good quality data on the way in. It needs to be very clear data, heavily reconciled. If you don't do that, if you're not going to invest in that level of rigor in terms of your data, park AI, because you're just not going to get value out of this. There's quicker ways to deliver value to your business. Probabilistic planning. Now, I am a fan of this. You know, we talked about the COVID thing where, you know, the past means nothing moving into the future. However, this doesn't, you know, if we think about like demand planners, probabilistic planning is not putting these guys out of a job, not by a long stretch. But if you can make their output more valuable, more trusted, more free up time for them, just give them deeper insights, just give them that little aid, I see this as a really quick win. Again, the data has to be good on the way in, and the people in your team need to be on board with this as well, because they shouldn't see this as, you know, technology taking jobs. It's not that. It's aiding people to do a better job, and it can genuinely do that. And I've seen this in 2 large pharma companies where they're genuinely seeing huge advantages. High-power data processing, that all goes on. The second one with rolling forecasts. I mean, who thinks an annual budget is any use after around about 4 or 5 months? You know, They're not. Don't do your forecasts every 3 months or 6 months. I think you have to start getting actively into rolling forecasts. Okay? Probably more for the finance people, but it's certainly something that, that people should consider. And as for these two, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Do not buy tools to replace basic stuff that you've got. If you've got Power BI, and pretty much everybody does because it comes with 365, don't get rid of it. It's a really good tool. It's a really, really good tool. Do not throw out all of the Excel within your business. There's no need. It's the single tool that you've probably got the largest skill set of within your business. Don't throw it out. Find a way to maximize and leverage the skill set that you've got, but just with a tool that enables people to be better. And I think that was about me. Talk about integration. Workflows is interesting, actually, because workflows, not just in terms of that basic sort of guide me through a process, but in terms of just being able to see the progress of a process at a higher level, I think adds value, and it just shines out bottlenecks within businesses as well. But that should be the last slide, because I'm not going to talk anymore. So, are there any questions at that point? No? Oh? In that case, thank you very much. It is the last of the day. Who's getting a train home? I am. It's only 4. That's not good luck. You don't need good luck. But thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the remainder of your day. Cheers.